Hi, students. How are you doing? Welcome to Sim. Thank you so much for the support. Hope you all are doing great. So I came across this video. The comment section is very, very interesting because everybody were kind of trying to, tell how they feel about why TYT. Yep, talks and all that, and Jenk and Anna and some other and they were talking about. Some people were like, why TYT was the first, people that introduced me to leftists and all that. And some people were like, if you had listened or if you had watched closely, you definitely will know that they were never on the left, that they have always been on the right. Just that people never, probably, people did not notice that and all that. And I remember that when I started talking about history and all that, at first I was like, whoa, yeah, these people are ready for black people. They support they are lefties, they support black people because he was actually talking more of black people and how all these people think that people that look like me are savages. And so he was like always being very defensive when it comes to people that look like me, always on the forefront. But at some point I also heard black people talking about them, how they have been probably hiding under something, using black people as a cover to probably get views and all that. Then at some point I said there must really be a reason why black people feel this way. Then I looked closer and I found out that there was really something shady about this person. Now I also we all can see a whole lot going on around them. Let's get into this video.
Okay, so real quick, I have to be honest. I just saw a video where someone was like, TYT was my introduction to leftism, and I am fascinated by that. Here's the thing. I've been on panels with both Anna Kasparian and Cenk Uygur, and while I can say that, they have, at least on paper, done a lot for progressive media, they've always kind of reeked Republican to me, especially Cenk Uygur. Cenk was a very out and out Republican way back when. I honestly think that they've been doing putting their thumb into the air, seeing which way the politics will go sort of thing, and adhering to that. And there was a time where we were a little bit more of a left-leaning country, and I think that for maybe a little bit of time there was some money in that, and I think that's why Cenk Uygur and many other people like him kind of started to lean into left-leaning stuff. But at least to me, these people have always seemed pretty goddamn not left. But also, you have to keep in mind that for where they were and for where this country is, yeah, they were pretty progressive, right? They were talking about race issues. Anna Kasparian used to talk and defend trans folks, right? So even if it wasn't very particularly, at least to me, leftist, it was pretty shockingly progressive to, I think, a large portion of this country who I think is not aware of just how right wing our actual political system is. I think a lot of people don't understand that there's a lot more money on the right than the left when it comes to media, when it comes to content creation. The right is willing to throw tons of money at content. And frankly, if you are someone who wants to live a long and prosperous career creating media, you are going to have more success doing it for people on the right. Now, why is that? The reality is billionaires are not going to pay you to come on to air and talk about how terrible they are. That's just the reality of it. The reality is capitalism is not going to survive if it doesn't have propaganda constantly propping it up. I think there's some of us who kind of understand that and kind of are a little bit more aware of the way that it's not just Fox News, it's actually all of the media that's fairly propagandized. And so I think we see through this a little bit, but I don't know how anyone watched TYT and got leftist per se. That to me is kind of fascinating. Because, to me, they've always just been even if they were critical, they've always just been like Democrats, right? And I don't know about you, but I have a thing where if I'm watching something and they start to become a little bit too invested in Democratic politics, I really do check out. purely because, while sure, maybe Democrats do believe in a lot of the things that I believe in, they're still pretty fucking right wing. And that's why they're able to throw people like me under the bus, right? Like constantly, because at the end of the day, they don't really see my causes as viable, right? Hell, a lot of leftists don't even think that my causes are viable, right? I think Cenk Uygur has always been somebody who's incredibly egotistical. And I think it's really always been about him. I think Anna Kasparian has always been somebody who wanted the Rush Limbaughs of the world to, at the bare minimum, respect her. And I think that what they're doing right now is, there's a little bit of a market right now for people who were on the left to, be like to have their I left the left moment, right? And so they're being embraced in a way that they're not going to be embraced by people who, actually do live under oppression in this country and expect for, people like the Chinks and Annas of the world to like actually stand up for them, right? Like, it's insane to think that someone could become a leftist through a platform that has increasingly started to villainize the unhoused, right? Like, if you listen to Chink and Anna talk about the unhoused, it's like they just look at them with such disdain, with such like disgusting and repulsive disdain. There is no consciousness about class. There's no understanding of how people become unhoused and the obstacles that they have to pull themselves out of that. It is quite literally these crazy, criminal, drug-addled people who enjoy being on the streets are trying to ruin our lives, attacking nice working class people, right? Anna Kasparian had like this whole anecdote about someone who she knew at her HOA meeting who turned out to be a Trump supporter. And it's like, girl, there, in that one sentence, you don't even understand the degree of privilege that you have, right? And talking about how, some Trump supporters aren't that bad. You can be friends with Trump supporters, right? Like, I could maybe believe that in 2016. I really think at 2024, that is some crazy, scary, unsafe shit in my opinion. As someone who used to live around a lot of conservatives, I watch it and I do get it because, when you're around them and you kind of have to work with them, like, you are encouraged to argue that they're not all that bad and, people get them misinterpreted the wrong way and da-da-da-da. And it's like, yeah, okay. But also, no one is wrong for correctly pointing out that these people are dangerous. No one is wrong for correctly pointing out that when we justify discrimination against trans women in a small way, that's going to justify it in a very large way. And we know just from, the fact that they present themselves as the voice for the left, that apparently the left, when these things are actually going to be challenged, are going to do nothing, right? So people aren't actually wrong for not liking what you have to say or even considering you to be a traitor for it, because that is quite literally the stance that you've demonstrated you have, right? So yeah, I don't know. I just think it's weird that some people got the impression that TYT was a leftist platform, because just in the little bit of time I've spent around both of them, I'm sure they don't even remember interacting with me. That's definitely not the vibe I got from them. So I want to talk about identity politics because that is a topic of conversation that keeps coming up on my feed, and I wanted to share some thoughts as somebody who is quite often called a woke scold by leftists on here. So I feel like I got to start out this conversation by saying that I was raised in a pretty conservative area, and I bring that up a lot because it contextualizes a lot of the ways I process things, because long story short, I was not somebody who came up in a space where I felt that I could ever speak up about racism or speak up about any of the shitty experiences that I have. The impression I often got from people growing up was that if I spoke about racism, if I spoke about any of the things that I go through because of my identity, I was basically a weak person who should not ever be considered for anything. So it's actually taken me a pretty long time to, feel confident about speaking about racism. It's been a really long time since I felt confident actually standing up for myself, right? And I think people who've followed me over the years have kind of seen that, because my feelings about it have changed and shifted over the years, and so has the way that I've spoken about a lot of these topics. And one of the things that I get into all the time with people is, it seems like there are people who often think in like leftist conversations that discussions about race are really just a waste of time. And I kind of want to talk about that a little bit, because that's actually quite baffling to me. So the thing is, like, for me, conversations about race and racism have always kind of been like a process. But something that I notice is that the impression I get from the so-called like anti-identity politic leftists is the same impression I get from like the conservative people that I grew up around, that these conversations about race are just, I guess, like not important for us to have. And it's baffling to me for a few different reasons, because while a lot of the anti-identity politic left want to, reduce everything to class, it's impossible to disconnect race from class in a country where class has been very intentionally, drawn along racial lines, right? And there's a reason why so many people look at someone like Donald Trump and see like a quintessential American, but they don't see somebody like Kamala Harris as a quintessential American, right? Like, there's a reason for that. And I'm not saying that as like a pro Kamala Harris person, but I'm saying that like there's a reason why when people are looking for shorthand for who is truly American, they think of someone who looks like Donald Trump. Whereas people like me are, even though we've been part of this country for a very long time, kind of viewed as like guests here, right? There's a reason why in other countries, when people think of an American, they often don't think of a black person. They think of like a white blonde person. And I guess sometimes when I have some of these conversations online, I think like, is it that I just don't get this stuff, or are these people just, repeating the same exact shit that every other anti-black person has before? Because to me, the only way we really get past race, the only way we really move beyond, racism, is if we like actually have conversations about it. But it seems like a lot of people are very resistant to that. And that's really baffling to me, especially when the people are calling themselves leftists. Now, part of how this came up for me is I was having a couple of conversations on here about Madeline Pendleton, right? And I'm not going to say that Madeline Pendleton is like a crazy racist, but I definitely think she's done some shit that was pretty anti-black. And to me, it's baffling that for some people it needs to raise to the level of like KKK wearing, hoodie wearing people before they actually recognize it as something that we should address, right? Because here's my position, and I guess this is where I guess some people get upset. We really shouldn't be dismissing small instances of bigotry, right? And I feel a little crazy when I talk about this stuff and people start treating me like I'm saying something extreme, or that I'm being unforgiving, or that I'm trying to force something. We know what happened when people in Germany slowly but surely started to blame Jewish people for everything. We know what happened when teeny tiny comments about Jewish people being a little bit different from your average German person. We know how that turned out. And I guess for me, I've always held that because we have the capacity for that, we should always be talking about these things. And even if race was created as a way to validate, capitalism in so many ways, even if race is an extension of capitalism, why is it that so many people don't actually want to acknowledge that our identities, right, are politicized inherently? And that means we're going to have certain conversations along the lines of identity, and about the ways that we are identified. Like, I bring up my conservative background because Um, growing up, I was very much a person who felt like I don't want people to define me by my race, right? I don't want people to define me by my gender. I've always, and if you've listened to me, if you're a follower of mine, you kind of pick up on this because I say things like this quite a bit. I have never really enjoyed this idea of needing to belong to a group, needing to belong to groupthink. That's just not who I am as a person. It's never been who I am as a person. But it's been impossible for me to ignore that my position in this world is one where my identities are politicized, right? Like, I would love to stop talking about race. I would love to stop talking about gender. I would love to stop talking about the different ways in which my identities are politicized, but it seems ignorant to pretend that, you know, the sky isn't blue, right? It's kind of baffling to me right now that we have so many people talking about, how wrong the left was for leaning into identity when, like, we have people on the other side who are talking about limiting people's access to things based on their identities, right? Like, it's a little crazy to me, and it makes me wonder, what is the ultimate conclusion supposed to be? Like, if your whole thing is that you're sick and tired of hearing about race, you're sick and tired of hearing about gender, you're sick and tired of transgender people speaking up for themselves and talking about what they go through because their identities are politicized, I guess, like, I don't understand the indifference to, I don't know, I get the impression from people that, like, they think that this shit's not a big deal, right? Like, part of why I'm kind of noping out of some of these conversations is I feel like I've been explaining a lot of these things for a very long time and, like, the reasons why they're important. But increasingly I'm hearing people, even as Republicans become so much more open about their hatred, even as Republicans become so much more clear about who the fuck they don't like and who the fuck they don't want to survive in this country, there are still people who are like, oh my gosh, these people are just making, they're ruining it for everyone. Like the fucking TYT shit that happened a little while back, right? You have Chink and Anna acting like trans people advocating for their rights are the reasons why, Democrats don't win. And it's kind of insane because, like, actually, no, trans people are a convenient scapegoat that, are very widely misunderstood and therefore very easy to radicalize people around. And so then when I talk about shit, when I kind of like try to share my perspective as a trans person existing and living in this world, that's like identity politics bullshit. And I really don't quite understand why people think that focusing on that is something that we should not be doing on the left. That's something I genuinely do not have an understanding of. Why is it that people are so upset with people like me who speak openly and clearly about the reality that their identity is politicized? And the only thing I keep coming back to is I think that some people really don't want the conversations to happen. And how is that not functionally the same as the racists who also don't want the conversation to happen? I want to understand it. Please help me understand it. Leave a comment. I'd appreciate it.
So this is all I got from this video. And okay, now let me start from the first video she made, where she was talking about Jank and Anna and how they've always been on the right. If you have looked and listened to them very well and all that. I mean, like, I think it's really, I don't know how Black women are able to identify all this, but yeah, you all are just very good at spotting things from the beginning and, like, start talking about it. And it's left for people that do not know Black women to listen. I mean, like, except if you are not willing to listen, that is your problem. But if you are willing to listen, you definitely will get it right. Because, like, when I started talking about his Black history and, like, a lot some years back, and the first thing I did was trying to get to know more about Black history and also listen to people because when I started following a lot of Black content creators, I fell in love with so many of them, so many Black content creators, because really they come, I love how vocal they are. They are very, very vocal with anything. Once they see something, they spot something, and it is not going great with them, they do not hide it. They speak it out. It's left, I mean, it's either you like it or you don't like it, and then you start fighting, and then they come back at you because they don't let it slide, especially when it is where it is very vital that their opinion should be listened to, right? So this Jeng of a man, I have really listened to him a lot because I remember back then bringing so many of his videos and all that because he was, I mean, like when for me back then, I felt like he got the passion, like, he was really very passionate about talking about Black people and how there is need for people to like listen to Black people and how Black people have really been through it all, and like everything he was saying, you definitely will kind of like, oh yeah, he is in for Black people and all that. But then as time goes on, I mean, they spotted him and they said, this man, they stopped listening to him. Some said they stopped listening to him. Some maybe at some point started listening to him. I mean, there's shows and all that. But at some point, I think they said, no, this man is not for us. And before we could say Jack, I mean, people also started seeing his attitude, his pure attitude. So now I feel like some of them are like, fair weathers or what they call them, like, where it is a greener, you see them tuning there. And where it is like, they tune in anywhere. I mean, anywhere it pleases them or anywhere it favors them, and why, you all already know how influential Black people are. And most platforms, if you look around, these or brown people, even their platforms, Black people, I don't know how they do it, but they absolutely elevate. When I say elevate, they elevate them so much, right? If they fall in love with your show, that is the end of it. Not until you give them reason why they should not fall in love with you, right? So that platform, Black people were really like into their platform. They gave it their all, which I absolutely love about them. When they want to support you, they give you their all. Not until there is reason for them not to support you anymore. So then at some point, I mean, rumors started like, coming out. And I was like, but wait, this man has really been like, standing up for Black people and all that. But I kept short, right? Because I have tons of so many Black content creators, that a lot of them, like I cannot count the Black content creators that I follow, right? So at some point I said that when they were like talking about, I said there must really be something wrong that I am not seeing, that they have seen, that I am going to wait till it starts coming out. And before, like, it's been how many months or even 1 year, if I am not mistaken, everything is coming out. And if you look around, you all can see that his shows has been going down. And I never knew, like, this young woman is talking about saying that I mean, he has always been on the right. He has never been on the left. That if you had listened to him very well, I started seeing him being on the right like not long ago. But Black women or Black people saw that years back. When I said years back, right? Man, it is really amazing. Before then, I mean, a video he made. Okay, I am always like, why is it that some of the videos they do, are they doing it like it will not get to Black people, or Black people will not see it, or maybe we are not online, or we will not see what it's going on and all that? I mean, because I do not see how I am, maybe like, people from my own end are benefiting something, because if you look around, there are also DEI, affirmative action, like, favors them so much. And how would somebody, a reasonable person, come out and not want the same thing that is like, everybody is benefiting from? Not like Black people are the major people that benefits from it. So what gave you the mind to say that, that you have always been against it? So if you have always been against it, so how, oh my God, it's really ridiculous that some people are very, I mean, I see it is as being mean because if you are not mean, why would you prevent other people from benefiting from something that you know that literally every other person will benefit from it? And also, we are not the most benefit, like, we are not the most people benefiting from it. Other people, white women, and other people are benefiting from that. Excuse me, my institution, you know, and he stood out to say that he never supported affirmative action. And also, he doesn't understand the concept of woke and how just that he just doesn't want to say it because if he does, black people are going to come for him. If you knew you were doing, like, you think black people will wake up and come for you, like, as who? Black people will just wake up and go. Not until, like, you have also shown black people that you cannot be trusted. And they saw that from the onset and they were screaming about it. Now, the reality is that, okay, now, did I tell you that he also came out to say that he never liked Donald Trump and all that? You never liked Donald Trump. Did you vote for Kamala Harris? You absolutely said you did not vote for Kamala Harris. So what am I supposed to do with the information? See, they keep contradicting themselves because they've seen so far that their show ain't moving like it used to be. Shout out to black people. Black people are really doing great for themselves. The same thing as what was his name? Just Scrabble or something that thought he could just clap with black people and turn around his show. Literally, the views has. I think they can eat their cake and have it. Not anymore. Black people aren't platforming anybody, especially these people, because so far you all always come back or come out in the end to tell black people that you are not to be trusted. And sincerely speaking, I have learned that and I am running with it. See you all in my next video. Bye for now. Oh, okay. For identity, okay, we'll talk about the other one we'll talk about that one in the comment section. The identity politics. Bye for now.